Hello everyone, Brigitte Belle here, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you lessons from King Solomon, the richest man to ever live. And inspiration for this video came from Stephen K. Scott's The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, King Solomon's Secret to Success, Wealth, and Happiness. So who was King Solomon and just how rich was he? Well, according to historical accounts, the story goes that King Solomon came into reign and God said, I will grant you whatever your desire is, I will give it to you. And rather than asking for wealth or a long life or the destruction of his enemies, he said, give me wisdom to properly govern my people. And God was so pleased with this response when Solomon could have easily asked for anything to please his own desires, and he asked for wisdom instead so that he could govern his people, that he said, I will give you wealth, possessions, and honor so great and so far beyond what any king has ever received or what any king will ever receive. And it's been estimated that the wealth of Solomon was about $1 billion a year in current day currency, and he reigned for 40 years. So within his reign, he amassed an estimated $8 trillion worth of gold. This guy was loaded, to say the least. And numerous historical accounts talk about people from faraway lands from all over, Egypt and different places coming to test his wisdom and bringing him these gifts of gold and all these lavish gifts. So his wisdom was something that was highly sought after, and interestingly enough, out of all the entrepreneurs and all the successful people that I have studied, they promote the very same things that Solomon has taught in his writings. So if you want to increase your wisdom and increase your wealth as a result, pay attention to these 9 lessons from King Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest man to have ever walked the earth. So the first lesson from King Solomon is to set goals and to have a vision for your life. King Solomon's words to us are, without vision, people perish. And while this may sound like an exaggeration, Solomon was basically saying that vision is vital to remaining alive. Maybe not physically alive, but mentally and emotionally, we need a vision for our lives if we want to survive and feel full of life. Now, what is a vision? Well, a vision can be defined as a mental image of what the future could or will be like. In the words of Stephen K. Scott, it means having a clear picture of an ultimate destination and a detailed roadmap to get there. I've made the analogy before that setting goals is kind of like entering a destination into a GPS. The moment you set a goal or enter that destination, your brain begins mapping out the right course for you to get there the fastest. And knowing your why, or your reason behind wanting to get to that destination, is the fuel that will help get you there. While having a detailed action plan is like your roadmap on how to get there. It's also important to have a timetable in which you want to achieve that vision or that goal for your life. Otherwise, it just remains a dream and not an actual goal. So if we were to break it down, what it looks like to have a vision or a dream or goals for your life, first you have the dream or the vision. Next, you have a specific goal or goals. Then you break that goal down into specific action steps. From those action steps, you break it down into daily tasks. For the best result, you can ask yourself, what do I need to get done by the end of this day, by the end of the week, by the end of the month, by the end of 6 months, a year, 5 years, in order to attain my goal? And having a calendar can help with this because you can write down all the things that you want to get done for that day and use different colored highlighters to indicate what you've accomplished and what still needs to be worked on. That's what I like to do, at least, so that's just a little tip for you if you want to follow that. The second lesson we have to learn from King Solomon is to be diligent, to take action and avoid laziness. King Solomon said, "Do you see a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. And the land of the diligent will rule, but the slack hand will be put to forced labor. Also, in all labor there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. And again, The sluggards will not plow by reason of the colds, therefore he shall beg in harvest and have nothing. These are all basically saying the same thing. Solomon is very clear throughout all of his teachings that the lazy person will come to poverty, whereas the diligent will come into prosperity. Diligence is defined as a constant and earnest effort to accomplish what is undertaken, persistent exertion of the body or mind. Being diligent is more than just working hard. It's taking inspired action. It's being attentive, and it's being a good steward of what you've already been given by successfully managing what you already have in your life right now. First lesson we learned from Solomon is that we need to have a vision, and the second lesson is that we actually need to act on that vision so that it's more than just a dream or something we fantasize about in our head, but that it actually becomes a reality. And I talked about that in my video, Law of Attraction Secrets Part 2. And some people didn't like that because they said that's not how the law of attraction works. The law of attraction works by you just visualizing something and it falls into your lap. And while I agree that that can happen in many cases, you can't just sit on your couch all day and expect things to just be handed to you. I think Jim Carrey said this perfectly when he wrote a check to himself for $10 million and he kept it in his wallet until the day he would be able to cash it out. And he said several years later, he finally got the deal for Dumb and Dumber and he found out that he was going to be making $10 million. His words were along the lines of, the law of attraction works, but you actually have to do something. You can't just go home and eat a sandwich and expect something to happen. The third lesson we learn from Solomon is to seek wisdom and knowledge. Solomon's words to us are, wisdom is better than rubies or pearls, and all that you desire cannot compare. Solomon is very clear that wisdom is to be prized above all else, even rubies or pearls. Now, what is wisdom? Well, wisdom is more than just knowing facts or statistics or having a mind full of information. Wisdom is taking that knowledge and applying it to your life. So if you know something, if you know that you should be doing something or that you shouldn't be doing something, and you have this information in your head, but you don't act on it, that's not being very wise, is it? Wisdom is acting on the things that you know are right and you know you should be doing. Now, maybe you don't know what's right and maybe you don't know what you should be doing with your life or with your time, in which case you need more knowledge. How do you get more knowledge? You can read books. You can seek out people who are already where you want to be in life and study their lives, study what they did to get to that place that they are at now. The point that Solomon makes clear to us is that rather than seeking out just money itself, seek out wisdom. Because that's something that I think a lot of people would probably turn down. If I were to say, I'll give you $1 million or I'll give you wisdom, which one would you pick? I would hope that you would pick wisdom, because while $1 million can be spent and mismanaged, and we often see that with people who win the lottery and don't know what to do with the money, so they just blow it all. Having wisdom can not only help you know how to gain more money, create more money, but also make money work for you and also make it grow rather than mismanaging it. So wisdom is much better than just money alone. Again, wisdom is better than rubies or pearls. And just the fact that you're watching this video right now, listening to the teachings of Solomon, shows that you are seeking wisdom and that you're humble enough to recognize that you want to learn more, you want to grow more. And that is something Solomon, I'm sure, would be very proud of, is your humility and your willingness to learn and grow. Which brings me to my next point. The next lesson Solomon teaches us is to be humble. His words are, pride comes before the fall, but humility precedes honor. Throughout the book of Proverbs, or Solomon's teachings, Solomon is very clear that pride will land you flat on your face, whereas humility will exalt you before kings or, before very important people. Humility can often get you much farther in life than skill alone. I experienced this firsthand when both I and someone who was my superior at the time both applied for a job at the same 5-star restaurant. When we were asked the question in the interview, how well do you take criticism? I responded with, I take it incredibly well because I know that it is the only way that I can grow and I can expand and I can become better. And then they proceeded to tell me that if I wanted to be in this kind of environment, that I needed to stop saying so much. And I said, I agree, that's a terrible habit. That's something that I will be more cognizant of and stop right away. My superior's response, on the other hand, wasn't along the same lines. When they said his cutting skills might not be up to the restaurant standards, rather than replying, I agree with you and I am willing to work hard enough in order to get up to your standards, his response was kind of more along the lines of, I'm already good enough, I don't need to change. And he went home from the interview angry and finally chopped up vegetables and sent them to the restaurant. Out of the two of us, I was the one who got the job, even though he was the one with more skill, more experience, and a longer time working in the restaurant industry. To me, that was a prime example of how humility can often get you further in life and skill. Being willing to say, I don't know it all, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to grow and learn how I can get there in order to become better. That kind of attitude will get you a lot further than thinking that you're perfect and that nothing needs to change. If you can be willing to learn, to grow, to take advice from others, you will get a lot further from the person that thinks nothing needs to change. Remember, the moment you think you're perfect the way you are and nothing needs to change is the moment you stop growth and advancement from occurring. Remember, humility precedes honor. The fifth lesson we have from King Solomon is to be kind. Now, this should go without saying, we should all always be kind to each other, but I know that kindness can evade even the best of us. We all have bad days, we all have bad moments. But Solomon makes very clear the importance of kindness, and he says, do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them on your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will be in good favor with both God and man. Solomon puts an emphasis on kindness and says that if you are kind, not only will you be in good favor with God, but you'll be in good favor with humans as well. And that favor may end up helping you out in the future. Never underestimate the power of kindness. In the words of Maya Angelou, she said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. People don't forget kindness, and they don't forget rudeness and harshness either. So be kind to everybody, don't burn bridges, and in extending your kindness to others, that person or those people may end up helping you out someday in the future when you are in a time of need. So be kind to everybody and don't burn bridges. The sixth lesson we learn from Solomon is to choose our words wisely. King Solomon said, the power of life and death are in the tongue, and they that love it shall eat its fruit. Here, Solomon is telling us that words have the power to build up or they have the power to destroy, and that the words that we speak are like planting seeds. And whatever seeds we plant with our words will determine the kind of fruit that we harvest, whether good or bad. So what kind of seeds are you planting with your words? Are you planting seeds of encouragement, of love, of kindness? Or are you planting seeds of gossip and hatred and slander? It is so important to learn how to choose our words wisely for numerous reasons. And I love the words of Shirdi Sai Baba, who said, before you speak, ask yourself, is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? And does it approve upon the silence? Learning effective communication skills, choosing your words wisely, and learning to express and explain your viewpoints without insulting or degrading anyone else's are all ways that can dramatically improve your life and benefit you for years to come in ways that you never would have imagined. So choose your words wisely. Be mindful of what comes out of your mouth. Remember, is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? Does it improve upon the silence? Use those 4 main points as a checklist for what you allow out of your mouth. The seventh lesson we learn from King Solomon is to be generous. Solomon said that while one gives freely, yet grows all the richer, another withholds what he should give, yet only suffers want. The generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. And I talked about this in my last video, how to be blessed. King Solomon greatly emphasizes generosity, and being the multi-billion trillionaire that he was, I'd say it's a good idea to listen to his advice. He understood the law of sowing and reaping, that when you give, you receive. It's just a law of the universe. And King Solomon understood that, he implemented it, and he emphasized it in his teachings. If you want to be blessed, if you want to live an abundant life, be a blessing to someone else. The 8th lesson we learn from King Solomon is to choose your friends wisely. I have said this many times before in my other videos, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. Your friends have a profound impact on the way you live your life, on the way you think, on the way you conduct yourself, and ultimately the course of your life. King Solomon in his wisdom knew this and said, "Walk with the wise and you'll become wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm." How many times have you asked your friends for advice and they gave you terrible advice and you followed it only to suffer the consequences? While our friends and family members may mean well, if they don't have wisdom and are foolish in their actions or behaviors, that can end up having an effect on us. Choose your friends wisely. Surround yourself with people who are wise. Surround yourself with people who you can learn from. If you do, Solomon tells us that you will become wise just like the people you surround yourself with, instead of suffering the consequences that come with acting and living foolishly. The 9th thing we learn from King Solomon is to have mentors. He is very clear on emphasizing that if we want to succeed in life, we need a group of members or a wise group of counsel to help us in our time of need and help us make wise decisions that will benefit us in the long run rather than harming or hurting us. So in addition to having friends who are wise, it's important to have a group of mentors. Solomon's words to us are, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." He also said, "Poverty and shame shall come to those who refuse instruction, and where there is no counsel, the people fail. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety." Mentors allow for the maximum amount of success in the least amount of time because they cut the learning curve in half and they shed light on areas in our life where we aren't even aware that we're doing something wrong, or we aren't even aware that we're doing something that's holding us back. It can also help us compensate in areas of our weakness. So areas where we may be weak, they can give us strength and encouragement. And I talked about this in my video, Why You Need a Mentor. Every great person to have ever walked the earth all had one thing in common, and that is that they had a mentor. Now, how can you get a mentor? Well, you can read the books of people whose life you admire and whose life is where you would like to be. That is a great way to, kind of be mentored by someone who you may not have access to, such as a celebrity or an entrepreneur, philanthropist, or spiritual teacher. Or you can invest in being coached by one of these mentors, by one of the people that you look up to and admire. And that investment, if that person is where you want to be and doing the things that you want to do, will have a high ROI, or return on investment, meaning the things that you learn from that mentor, the investment that you make will be well worth it, because you will learn things that will benefit you for your entire life. And maybe you don't have money to invest in self-improvement. In some cases, you can offer your time and say, "I'm willing to work for you for free if you can teach me, everything that you know." And I know that's something that Tai Lopez teaches, and he's been mentored by a lot of great people. And I know that's something that many other successful people emphasize, is that you need a mentor if you want to be successful. And you don't just want any mentor. You want people who are where you want to be and who have already accomplished what it is that you want to accomplish. So those were the 9 lessons from King Solomon, the richest man to ever live, that I wanted to share with you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with someone you think might like it, and subscribe for more videos. I love you all so much, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.